So I'm very excited about this week's Watchlist Wednesday. I know it sounds like I probably say that every week, but this time I'm actually very excited because for the first time, we will have two companies going head to head with each other. And today, we'll be taking a look at PayPal and Square and how they square up against each other. Maybe I should have worded that a little better. Now, that's not the only thing that I'm excited about for today's episode, but we'll talk more about that later. For now, let's just go ahead and get this show on the road. Hey everyone, and thanks for joining me today. My name is Matt, and today's episode was actually a suggestion that I received from in the comments from Timmy Pompom. So thank you so much, Timmy, for this suggestion. It's actually two companies that I've been debating on making a video about. Never really was sure which one to take a look at, so because of your suggestion, I just decided we'll go ahead and take a look at both. As always, if you have a company you want me to review, please let me know in the comments down below. And before we jump into this, I just need to say this is not financial advice. Don't take it as financial advice. This is just for your entertainment. This is not sponsored by any means, and neither of these companies are paying me to say anything about this. So sorry I had to do that. I just always like to get that out of the way. And also, I've never said this before, but I do suggest sticking around this time until the end of the episode because something else different is going to happen at the end of this. And you'll see at the end, so bear with me throughout all of this. So let's start by just a little background about these companies. So these companies are both methods of payment processing systems. PayPal has been around a little bit longer than Square. PayPal has been around since the 90s, where Square came out sometime in the 2000s after Twitter was started. And even though Square is a little bit newer of a company when compared to PayPal, they've gained traction very quickly given their products and services that they offer, and a lot of that is partially due to Jack Dorsey. If you're not familiar with Jack Dorsey, you might have heard of him because he's also the co-founder and CEO of Twitter, while also being the founder and CEO of Square. So I want to start this off with just a little general comparison between these two companies. As I previously mentioned, they are both payment processing systems, but the way they do it is not exactly the same. So PayPal operates mostly online, helping businesses or online stores have a way of processing payments that people feel comfortable and safe with using. They generally actually find that people that have the PayPal ability on their sites receive about 60 or 50% more sales than those that don't have PayPal. I know personally if I go to buy something online and it has that PayPal option, I am more inclined to use that PayPal option. One, because I don't have to go find my credit card and type in all my information. Two, because it just limits the amount of sources that actually have my credit card information. Having it all on PayPal and PayPal being a trustworthy service is something that makes me feel more comfortable as a consumer when it comes to purchasing things online or from companies that I've never actually dealt with before online. Sorry, there's a bug in here. As for Square started off as mostly as a point of sale system. I've mentioned this before, but they first came on my radar when food trucks and breweries kind of became a big thing. It's how they were all able to accept credit cards. I also now see them at farmers markets or local business stands. And so they really helped with smaller businesses having that point of sale system and also gave them an easy way to aggregate all their data and help them make better business decisions. So PayPal also owns Venmo, Square owns Cash App, so it's just another way that they do go directly head to head with each other. And lastly, neither of these companies pay a dividend, so these are both companies that you might consider adding to your portfolio if you're looking for more of a growth-oriented company rather than an income-producing investment. So next we'll talk about the numbers. And I'll be honest, with doing two companies this week, I didn't have as much time to run full comparisons when it comes to the numbers, so this will be a relatively shorter section than what we typically do, but it's always worth just taking a look at. And overall, we can tell that both of these companies are trading at a premium, with Square being at 136 and PayPal being at 99. These are definitely trading at a high price right now, and you could say it's justified, but if you compare them to a Visa, MasterCard, or American Express, then they're definitely trading at a very high price right now. Take it or leave it. Again, I don't think that these companies are going to go anywhere, and I think that they've done enough acquisitions or have enough support to provide or to have enough support to support the high PE ratios. We can also see that neither of them have a terrific net profit margin. It's pretty low compared to the industry. I think the industry average for these payment systems or fintech is around 25 to 30%. Now, it's more justifiable for Square because they're so new and they're growing very aggressively, but PayPal also has really just been a standalone since I think 2015 is when they separated from eBay. So they're also trying to make sure that they are well established and acquiring a lot so that this way they don't get acquired by a company like Visa or Square. Overall though, these do fall in almost every category much below what the sector average is doing, which could be a concern, but it's not something that I would look at these and say, no, neither of these are going to be a good investment. So that's where I put more of my focus for this week into their earnings calls to see how have they been handling current state, as well as what are they looking for in the future to help them continue their growth. And the first one that I will talk about here is going to be Square. So I should start off with talking about Square by saying that I am a big fan of Jack Dorsey. Yeah, I think he's a little loony, but I also think you need to be a little crazy to accomplish the things that he's done. I can also say going into this analysis, I anticipated Square to take a bigger hit than they did, given that small businesses, which has been their main focus, have not really been able to operate the way that they previously have, and so I thought that would have in effect or a pull down on the revenue they receive from those point of sale systems, which ultimately it did, but it wasn't as significant as I anticipated. And the reason being is because a lot of small businesses actually had to pivot to make sure that they were able to remain operating and remain profitable during everything going on. I think a few examples of that though might be distilleries are making hand sanitizer, tailors are making face masks, hairdressers are doing video tutorials on how to cut your hair. So businesses have pivoted well and are still ultimately going to be using that point of sale system. Even though they're not swiping a card, they could still process these transactions through the systems that they use. So it was good to see that overall they weren't impacted that significantly from this. Similarly to Shopify, as well as PayPal, Square did offer loans to their users or subscribers to their services during this pandemic, ultimately understanding, as they should, that their business thrives off of other businesses' success. So if other businesses are not able to operate, if they have to go out of business, ultimately that's going to hurt companies like Square and PayPal. And so being able to loan out money back to these businesses and help keep them afloat is something that's going to help out all of these businesses in the long run, as well as produce an additional source of revenue for them in the future when their clients are paying back those loans with any interest they might be able to generate from it. Now, I do expect their second quarter to look a little bit more rough than it did for the first quarter. Reason being is because they waived all fees for their subscribers during April of this year. So that's one source of revenue that they're going to miss out on, as well as they did allow for their subscribers to temporarily pause or suspend their subscriptions until they're able to get back to a full operational business. Again, it's a very respectable move. Yes, I think that it'll hurt them temporarily, but I think providing such a understanding and a large amount of respect towards the people that use your service is what's going to pay off in the long run, and it's something that's going to help them gain that customer loyalty down the road. The call also did talk a lot about the Cash App and how they were able to set up direct deposits for stimulus checks to go into the account, which is very helpful because there's a lot of people, specifically in the US, that don't currently have bank accounts. And so for them to allow, or for them to have a place to receive the stimulus checks was very helpful, because if you had to wait for it to be mailed, it would take months longer than it did, as opposed to the direct deposit. So it allowed for people to receive that money a lot sooner. This was also able just to bring a ton of new customers to Square Cash App because of the amount of people that don't have bank accounts. So again, I think that was a very smart move on their end, is basically setting up a bank to allow people without bank accounts to have direct deposits. And I think that's something that they might continue to use in the future for those that just don't simply earn enough to have a bank balance with certain institutions. Giving them something like the Cash App as a place to keep their money, I think, is a great move for Square, and it really helps them reach a larger customer base. Now, one thing I do wish they talked about more during their earnings call was I wish they talked more about their e-commerce store, because that's actually what I'm most excited in for Square. Aside from the other growth that they're doing, I know that Jack Dorsey's about to spend 4 months in Africa for something, and they didn't really talk about it that much. And I actually looked into it, and it's a very promising e-commerce store, and it's definitely going to give Shopify a run for their money. Reason being is because to set up a Square e-commerce store, and to my knowledge, it is different than Squarespace, go figure, but they don't charge like a subscription fee like Shopify does. The only fees they charge for you is transaction fees, which I believe is 2.9% plus 30 cents, and probably changes depending on your volume. So it's a really good incentive for people to use Square over Shopify. Now, I'm sure it's not as advanced. There's probably not as many plugins or integrations with other apps and services. But if you're just selling, hot sauce as an example, and you just need a very basic site to, post your stuff on and help receive orders and whatnot, then it's definitely a very low cost and easy option for you to get started with an online store. Next, we'll go ahead and talk about PayPal. As I mentioned earlier, PayPal's been around for a while now. They started in the 90s, and for a company that's been around for that length of time, they're still very much a growth company. And again, as I mentioned previously, I believe part of that has to do with their recent separation from eBay. Yes, that was 5 years ago, but I think PayPal's made an effort to make sure that they separate themselves completely from that eBay past that they had, while also growing fast enough so that they don't quickly get acquired by another payment processing system, bank, or anything along those lines. A big highlight from the earnings call, though, is that PayPal is still experiencing double-digit growth, not only in revenue, but also in their customer user base. So that's incredible to see for somebody that's been around for so long to still be experiencing double-digit growth. That's not something many companies are able to do, and it really just goes to show the value that they provide to the marketplace, and that there's a huge need for companies like PayPal that is a secure online way of making payments. They talked about Honey a little bit too during the call, and I completely forgot that PayPal recently purchased Honey. I've used Honey before. I don't seem to necessarily get the best value out of it, but it is another way for them to make money, and I'm sure a lot of people use Honey religiously. And basically all they do is if you look for something and Honey pops up saying it's cheaper if you go to this site, you go to that site and buy it through there, then Honey just earns a small commission. So nothing crazy, but it's definitely one of those kind of quick and easy ways just to have a reoccurring source of revenue. I did also think that it's just worth mentioning PayPal did make very clear that they will not fire any of their employees during current times, or they won't fire any employees because of the virus, which I think is a very respectable move, and it's something that I think Stitch Fix could take notes on. You can look into that if you want, but Stitch Fix is going under some scrutiny right now with the way that they're firing employees, given that they can't afford them. They also did spend a lot of time saying that their focus is going to be on the long run and their future acquisitions, which again, as a long-term investor, is definitely something that I love to hear, because it shows that they're not just focusing on surviving. They're focusing on being sustainable during the long run. And they also hit heavy on the fact that their expenses are remaining steady over these years, which is going to help them when it comes to planning and future acquisitions. And it's something that you don't typically see in companies, is having very consistent expenses. So that's another thing I like seeing, but not, again, going to be something that ultimately determines if I would buy this stock or not. So for my general thoughts here, overall I think both of these companies are very solid investments, and I certainly believe that they're not going to go anywhere anytime soon. My favorite things about Square, though, is definitely the e-commerce side that they have, as well as how much they've been able to support and assist small businesses with growing and being able to accept credit cards. The last thing anybody has nowadays is cash, and so for businesses to previously not be able to accept credit cards was very detrimental to their business. And so I think Square has done a great job of giving them that ability to receive plastic payments while also being able to be a source for them to send out all the data and help businesses make more informed decisions. As for PayPal, I love the long-term focus that they have and really focusing on growth for the future, as well as they also have ties to big businesses. So just a few examples would be like Facebook, Live Nation, and Verizon are companies that they all work very closely with, and that just goes to show the support that they have from companies that use those products or services very frequently. Overall, I would say if you're looking for a pretty aggressive stock, have about a 5-year time horizon, and are okay with handling volatility in the market, then maybe Square would be the stock that you look at. But if you're looking for maybe a shorter time frame or are not really one to stomach a lot of volatility going on in the market, then maybe look at PayPal. Both are great investments, but they definitely suit a different kind of investor. So it just really depends on if you know your investing style and if you feel that you can handle volatility or if you like more of a slow and steady approach. So, comes that time. Which one are we going to buy? Or are we going to buy both? Well, we're actually not going to buy either. I know that sounds weird, but I think that when it comes to payment systems, there's a few competitors out there as well that just have more favorable backgrounds. And again, that will be like your Visas, MasterCards, American Express. While those are credit card companies and either PayPal or Square are not a credit card company, I just think that this whole kind of payment system thing is a great place to invest in, and trying to own every single one of those shares would be incredibly expensive, and ultimately you probably wouldn't get the exposure that you'd want to each of those because it would just cost a lot of money and you might end up buying just a few shares and again not be as invested into these companies as you'd like to be. So what we're actually going to do today is we're going to buy an ETF. And the ETF we're going to buy is the Vanguard Information Technology, ticker symbol VGT. Reason being is because it holds on to PayPal as well as Square. PayPal is actually in the top 10 holdings of that ETF, as well as other payment processing. So like a Visa is in there. This is also an ETF that has experienced a lot of growth recently. I'm going to do a video probably tomorrow on a more in-depth reason why I chose VGT over other ETFs out there that hold these investments. But for now, let me go ahead and get everything pulled up and we will add VGT to the portfolio instead of Square or PayPal. So admittedly, I've filmed this part about 3 times now, and for whatever reason, my computer shuts down whenever I record my screen, so that's not cool. Let me pull up here what I've done though. We were able to purchase 15 shares of VGT. That gave us a total of about $4,100. That is a little bit more than what I've been previously buying, and that's just simply because it's a ETF as opposed to an individual stock, so I feel comfortable putting more money into something that's already broadly diversified. And again, tomorrow I'll make a video on why exactly I chose VGT as opposed to picking one of the two, or as opposed to picking another ETF that has Square and PayPal in it. But for the time being, we'll just leave it at that. Overall, our portfolio is up, which is good to see. Shopify's been weird Shopify's been down. That one, I know we bought it high. I'm going to ride the wave as best as I can though, since again, it's a long-term strategy. Maybe we'll get lucky and they'll do like a stock split or something. But also to Walmart. I can't figure out why Walmart hasn't been performing as well. Maybe we bought that one high also, but we'll figure that one out on a different time. So I apologize that you couldn't actually see me place the trades. I have the screenshot that should have been up on your screen so you can see that we placed the trade and what we're at now. If you have any questions for me on this though, please leave that in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video or if you found it helpful, I'd really appreciate if you considered subscribing to my channel. Really just helps me out a lot for doing these videos. And if you liked it, or if you felt like you learned something or found it was entertaining, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button for me. If you hated the video, then certainly give it a thumbs down so I know that I need to improve on these videos. But I think that about wraps it up for today, so I'll leave us with, you could be anywhere in the world and you're right here with me, and I really appreciate that. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video, but I will let you go ahead and enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you next time.